Happening right now, Iran ramping up attacks on its own neighbors in the Gulf as the U.S. and Israel wage war against Iran and its regime. Let's go live now to Washington and CBS News intelligence and national security reporter Olivia Gazis. So, Olivia, let's talk about escalation. A lot of people are very worried at this point that it could become a full-blown regional war.
Well, Reed, I think there are growing signs that this could tip that way. The U.S. and Israel already have said they've struck more than 2,000 targets inside Iran, where the count of the civilian toll is expected to be at least several hundred. The U.S. has confirmed 6 American fatalities and more than a dozen injured. A number of officials are openly saying they expect that number to rise. Iranian drones and missiles have been reaching beyond Israel, more deeply into the region, and potentially shifting those countries' calculus about whether to get involved in this conflict. As you saw, drones struck the U.S. embassies in both Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, increasing that pressure. And the IDF has said that it's now operating in southern Lebanon after Hezbollah fired rockets into Israel, which is now risking the opening of a second front. There's still the specter of Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria that could escalate. And while there have been plenty of calls for restraint, there's no clear off-ramp right now for the Iranians. And the U.S., via the president and plenty of other senior officials, have been openly stating that additional waves of strikes are still to come. So I think we're very much on the precipice still.
Additional and by some counts, even stronger waves. President Trump is this afternoon really defending the war, saying it was our last hope to stop Iran in its tracks. What do we know about the factors that led up to that decision to strike?
We've been hearing more about the rationale from this administration today and yesterday after several days of uneven and sometimes what sounded like very misaligned messaging. I think you played moments ago the president rejecting the idea that Israel actually forced the U.S. into this conflict, saying it was a decision that Washington determined on its own it had to make. That comment, of course, is following the explanation set forth by Secretary of State Marco Rubio yesterday. He said the U.S. believed Iran would immediately retaliate against American forces if it were attacked. And because Washington anticipated an initial Israeli strike against Iran, the Pentagon concluded the U.S. couldn't afford to sit back and absorb the retaliation after that first strike. So acting first, he said, would reduce American casualties from the get-go. Speaker Johnson then reiterated that view after the briefing. Critics of the decision, of course, including the Democratic Senator Mark Warner, have said that that meant the imminent threat was to Israel and not the United States. Beyond that argument, Rubio also said that within 12 to 18 months, Iran could amass enough missiles and drones to make future confrontation even more costly. So striking now, while the threat was relatively more contained, simply made more sense. His words yesterday were, this had to happen no matter what.
Olivia, thank you so much for that update live from Washington.